So next one is FBA,
Yeah.
optimizing FBA inbound operations, and also the costing and everything else. So give us everything. It's very, too many parts, moving parts there, especially with the recent increased costs. So give us your take.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack on this one. An FBA routing, so sending your product to Amazon warehouses for fulfillment is, it's all about shipping at the lowest cost, which is not always easy. And for people selling in multiple markets, the economics may be very different. For example, in the US, they have preferred carriers for pallets. In Canada, they don't. They have preferred carriers for cases, so boxes with product, but not for entire pallets. And so that changes the way we have to do things. And so, to give you an example, in Canada, I can be looking at $300 or $400 for Amazon to take in the cases that would fit on a pallet, and I can send that pallet to them with another provider for under $100. So these are really meaningful numbers. And so the way we optimize FBA routing is we leverage third-party tools that allow us to choose the Amazon FBA warehouse or distribution center that is closest to where we're shipping from. And obviously that's important because the less further your product has to travel, the lower the cost, of travel. And so we have a manufacturing facility in the US, and we try and ship as close to it as possible. And then Amazon does the routing from there if they need to route it, but they don't pass on that cost, to you. And so we do not create our FBA shipments on Amazon's shipping wizard or template on their website. We have a third-party tool in which we create the shipments, and that tool handles the routing for us. So that's been a critical step because the costs go up, and as you mentioned, they fluctuate over time as shipping costs and fuel and these things change. So it's very hard, to be efficient unless you invest a lot at being efficient, a lot of time.
So I have two questions there. One is
Yeah.
operational, the other is cost.
Yeah.
It's cost.
Yeah.
Operationally, if Amazon, if you're using Amazon designated carrier, then the moment that you print the shipping label and then you put it on the box and send it out, you are done. It's as
Yes.
good as you delivered it to Amazon. You don't have to worry about anything. And
Correct.
what this especially impacts is the the amount of time Amazon will take receiving it because they have an existing process with those carriers. But when you use a third party, now you're talking about, and also depending on the size of the shipment, you're talking about that third party making arrangements with Amazon warehouses to book and then deliver and blah, blah, which may end up adding extra time to the delivery, the transit time and the receipt. So tell me about your experience with that.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. And there's a learning curve there, and so we need to do a few shipments to understand what do we have to factor in for time. But as you well know, and your other sellers listening to this podcast know, even when you go direct with Amazon, it takes a lot longer to get into inventory and be available for sale than you might expect it, at the outset. And, often we'll send things, and from printing the label with an Amazon preferred carrier until it's available for purchase could be a month, and in some cases more. So, inventory management, which we'll talk about shortly, is inextricably tied to FBA routing efficiency. But the simple response to your question is, there's a learning curve with our other partners. And once we understand what extra time we need to factor in or pull out, we can plan based on that.
Okay, so for everybody, it may be different depending on like, for example, I have some clients, the products they sell are classified as dangerous goods.
Uh-huh.
And dangerous goods cannot be shipped by Amazon designated carrier, and therefore they have to make their own arrangements.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And of course, that takes longer to receive. However, the amount of time that they have to factor in is significantly more than the usual, like 3 times more.
Wow.
So that, as you put it, at the end of the day, it's all about inventory financing. So if your lead time is 2 months for manufacturing, now you're talking about doubling that. That means carrying more inventory. So this is an extremely important decision to make. So I would just say to anybody listening, you study it and then try to reduce that learning curve.